Hi, my name is Maria Buon, and for this presentation, I will be discussing what I have learned throughout the course of my HCDE 313 user research class. I have learned important information surrounding research that will be useful in my future endeavors in my career. I chose to conduct research surrounding the HCDE Student Lounge. I spent a lot of time in the lounge, so I wanted to learn more about it and how other students viewed it. Additionally, I chose the topic because it was very accessible to me as a student in the HCDE major. Throughout the course, I conducted field observations, interviews, and a survey about my research topic. Each of these methodologies revealed new key findings that were very valuable to me. Before discussing these methodologies, I will first discuss three important ideas involved with each methodology. The first is ethics. I had to make sure I remained ethical during all my research. With my topic, I did not think I would run into any ethical issues, but I realized that even small things were unethical. There were times when I forgot to ask people for their permission to include something they said in my notes, but I quickly remembered right after to ask for their consent. Another common idea was bias. With each methodology, I made sure I was not being biased. It was difficult with field studies because I had to think twice about observing data versus interpreting it. For the interviews and the survey, I had to make sure to avoid biased questions that would make participants respond in a certain way. Lastly, data analysis was the most challenging part for each methodology. I learned how to use affinity analysis, though, which was extremely valuable. I learned how to analyze survey results by creating graphs and finding themes among open ended questions. Learning these data analysis methods are extremely useful for my future research. The first part of the research included field observations. This was my favorite method due to its simplicity. I conducted a field study in the student lounge and used pure observation and contextual inquiry methods. I focused on who went to the lounge, what people did in the lounge, and what materials were available to students in the lounge. During my field studies, I took notes on my laptop. I was worried that people would notice I was observing them, but quickly realized that I blended in with the other students since mostly everyone was on their laptops in the lounge. Going into field observations, I thought it was going to be very difficult writing everything down. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to notice everything because of the numerous amount of things occurring. I was pleasantly surprised though because the lounge was relatively empty and there were even times when I wasn't writing anything down. During this time, I wrote about the materials in the lounge. With my interviews, I wanted to understand students' motivations for going to the lounge. I aimed to have a semi structured interview so that I could ask participants some follow up questions and gain more detail about their overall experiences in the lounge. Recruiting interview participants was not difficult for me since I knew many people in the major. I was tempted to just interview my friends, but I knew this would have resulted in some bias throughout my key findings. I aimed to interview people that were simply acquaintances and ones I did not really know well to develop my interview skills and to gain more data about the student lounge. The interviews provided extremely valuable information that I would not have received otherwise. It was very difficult to transcribe the interviews because typing filler words into a document is something I'm not used to. I thought analyzing the data from the interviews was most interesting because the participants explained things that I did not ask for, giving me more rich data. Conducting the survey was the most difficult methodology for me. I had difficulty forming questions that would give me the data I wanted. A survey was very beneficial though because I received responses from a larger student sample in the HCDE major. I used Google Forms to implement my survey. Google Forms helped the data analysis process greatly because of the many visuals it provided. These visuals helped me notice any patterns I saw within my results. Google Forms is very easy to use as well, which made the survey easy for my participants to do. Analyzing the data from my survey was difficult for me, but a very useful learning experience. I had difficulty combining qualitative and quantitative data, but once I found relationships, it became easier. If I thought about how I should have analyzed the data before writing the questions, this process would have been much easier for me. Communicating key findings from these results was another part of the research process. The most difficult part of this process was designing key frameworks to represent each finding. Taking a large amount of data and summarizing it all into one image or chart was very challenging for me. Deciding on what my key findings should be was a very interesting process, though. I enjoyed looking through all my research and finding common results throughout my methodologies, eventually resulting in a triangulation of data. I was surprised to see the amount of similar data in my methodologies because I felt like each methodology resulted in new findings. Another challenge with communicating my results was making sure the document could stand on its own. Because each report was built off of the previous one, I was tempted to expect readers to know what I was already talking about. Writing these reports has helped me communicate more professionally as well, which will help me in the real world. What I have learned throughout this course will definitely help me in my future line of work. When conducting research, I will always remember how to remain ethical and avoid biases. I know that I will use these methodologies again, and I am extremely excited to see how they play out in the real world. User research involves the task of understanding users' goals, motivations, and pain points. Research is a vital part of product design, and I am very grateful for what I've learned throughout the course. When I work in the UX industry, I will be sure to use what I have learned in this course to help me in the research phases of my projects. Thank you.